Hello, divine, beautiful souls. This is Energy Speaks Podcast with your host, Katriel. This season, we're embarking on the Zodiac Energy Empowerment Series, and we've already made it all the way to Pisces. So, we have a very, very special guest here today. She is our practitioner for our online Pisces class. Through the astrals, we meet Maureen Greif, and she is a psychic medium, a realtor, and a hypnotherapist. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Great. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be
Absolutely.
here.
What does Pisces mean? Pisces energy mean to you?
Well, um, it means like they're very intuitive people. They are the culmination of all the zodiac signs together. I believe they're the last one, aren't they? And they're able to communicate with animals and just be really, really nice people.
I love that. And we're going to get a chance to experience their Pisces energy because all of those energies are actually within us. Which is fun because like we think about, you just mentioned something very important. You said they're the last ones, aren't they? Well, we have our house systems,
Mhm.
and many people call it the 12th house. I like to call it what it is, House of Pisces, because it tells you exactly what the energy is. when I
Fishy people.
and it's embarking on the unknown. you know we're actually, for our audience, we're actually in Pisces energy right here right now, which is kind of fun to actually explore that energy while we're actually embodying it you
Yes,
know
yes, it is. It's great.
Oh man, do you know any beings who are Pisces?
My sister.
Your sister? Okay.
My sister.
My Aunt Mona, and I have a lot of lots of friends actually. The we did Pisces class this morning for the in-person,
Okay.
and naturally I chose a Pisces. I was like, Alasa, we're I want you for a Pisces class. She just flows.
Good, good.
It's so funny. But yeah, it's interesting. I often associate the theme of our senses, um, understanding, and I really do feel like it's, especially when we talk about Pisces energy, it's very inward.
Mm,
Um, it's like exploring the realms of self, and it goes deep and ethereal.
yes.
And also, another theme I like to associate with Pisces is compassion. Um, Themes around compassion, uh, because often Pisces can often be hard on themselves. Um, and so it's a nice invitation for us to explore compassion and also faith. So, um, with a little bit of Pisces energy introduced, let's actually navigate the waters of where you've come from. How have you even gotten connected with the astral realms and just your journey, you know?
Okay. Well, I grew up in New York City and Manhattan, actually. And it was just second nature to me. My mom was psychic. My grandmother was psychic. My great grandmother was psychic. We were all, we had four generations and
Mm,
everybody could do everything. And I could see people's auras. I didn't know other people couldn't see the same thing
mm.
I was seeing. I'd hear voices and I'd come out to the kitchen. I'm like, Mom, who's here? And she'd say, nobody. I'm like, but I can hear people talking. There's voices. She goes, there's nobody here. I'm like, great. When I was a little kid, there was this large man that used to stand in the doorway of my bedroom. Used to freak me out. I did not like him, but he stood there all night long. I don't know who he was, but he was always there. So
Amen.
Yeah, right. But never came into the room, which was good. He just stood in the doorway, which didn't help if I watched horror movies with my dad. I think we
No.
watched The Curse of the Mummy, and I was like horrified because I had to go through this doorway to get to a bathroom, and I was like, nope, I'm not going. I'm staying right here. I remember once we went to the cloisters there. That's up on the Upper West Side and towards Dyckman Street, and that place was walking with dead people, and no one else could see them but me. you know and my mother used to tell me, don't let anyone know you can see these things. I'm like, why? Especially when I went to Catholic school, then I was like, don't talk about this. And I used to tell her, I go, well, we have many lives. I was 7 years old, so like this had to like come from this little kid that never heard this before. There was no internet, there was nothing like this on TV. We had 5 TV channels, that was it. And I came home from school and I said to her, I go, I said, I don't understand this. I said, we come around many, many times before we become one with the sun. And she like put her hand over my mouth and she said, keep that to yourself. Do not let the nuns know. So I started realizing I was a little different than everybody else.
That would have been a fun conversation with a
Yeah,
nun.
yeah. Well, the nuns were always calling her. I was always telling them something.
Oh my
But
God.
so then I always had an interest in it. And when I was 19, I met a lady that was a professional psychic, and she taught me how to read the tarot. And so I did that, in my spare time, never charged money for it, just love to do it. And I had this whole following of people that would just tell me what's going on in their life. What do you think is going to happen? I'm like, oh, it's simple to see, blah, 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 blah. And, they'd always call me back and they go, how do you know? And I said, I don't know. It's just there. It's like looking out at the weather. Is it sunny out or what? So. And then I became a computer engineer, got a little bit more left brain.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
left brain. And, you know, I wrote computer programs and was a pre-sales post-sales technical support rep for some big software companies, then went into software sales, loved doing it, loved talking to people. And then I had my first daughter and I decided to stay home for a while, and then my mom passed away in 2007, and I needed to like reconnect with my spiritual side because I wanted to be able to communicate with her. And so it's been just a moving quest since 2007. And
Do you
you know,
feel like one thing I've noticed when like my granny passed away and now, well, actually all of my grandparents are now and beyond.
on the far
And
side.
on the far side, near far something.
Yeah, right.
um, I noticed like we all have like, like an inheritance, right? But I noticed that there's like it kind of reminds me of like in the Bible, um Jacob, right? Where they're talking about the birthright and then the inheritance and how there's an actual difference. I
Uh-huh.
feel like when they were talking, I feel like there was like a physical inheritance, and then there's a spiritual one.
Okay.
And so like I've been kind of like paying attention to this because the moment and I just received like a signal like once my grandfather passed, he was an Aquarius on the cusp of Capricorn.
Okay.
Um and he was a builder, and he was a visionary. And I noticed that when he passed away, I received like downloads and information that I did not have before that are all around those themes. And it was like the codes.
Wow. Nice.
And I noticed that with my granny and my grandma as well. My grandfather, I guess I wasn't really awoken to that because it happened so early in my life that I
Uh-huh.
didn't like I wasn't like 100% there. Um but I find it super interesting. Have you found anything like that when you've when you've had grandparents or parents pass on of like a spiritual inheritance?
Be honest with you, I haven't noticed it. I think maybe they lost my address, you know, like we're out of here, you know. But no, I guess, you know, like with my mom, different things would happen and I could hear her voice in my head. And I would tell the kids, I said, you know what Nanny would say. And
Mm,
we would then, you know, I would then explain what Nanny would say. And so now my youngest, she was 5 when my mom passed, and she's 23 now. And she'll even quote her. She goes, you know, to her friends, she said, my grandmother would say, and she says it. So maybe that was the inheritance, you know,
mm.
what Nanny would say. My dad, he's been quiet other than swinging the door open.
Shut that dang door.
Yeah, well, when he learns how to shut them, I think I'm really going to be worried. I have double doors in for my master bedroom, and
Mhm.
standing in the family room, my younger daughter and I were standing there, and it's not a doorknob; it's like a you know, latch type thing. So I didn't get doorknobs on everything. It's like a handle or a latch,
Mm.
and we saw it turn down, and the door slowly opened, and I was like, oh my God, because my husband wasn't home, so it wasn't him. And I'm like, Dad, you cannot mess with any other doors in the house except for the kitchen garage door. That's the only door you can touch. Anything else, you're going to scare us to death. So just stop that right now. And the
Did it
scary part
work?
is the door pushed shut again. So yeah, so that worked.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so funny. In my okay, so a little ghost story.
Ooh,
When
ghosts. I
well,
got
it's
some
something.
aliens. I got alien stories for you too, if you want one.
Why not, right? I mean, that's totally Piscean energy. um, no, it was funny. As like when I was growing up, I always knew my house was walking with other beings. Like
Mm.
I didn't actually see them, at least not to my knowledge that I remember. Well, okay, I take that back. I do remember not too long ago, um, seeing like kind of like it wasn't like a shadow being, but it was like you could tell that there was something there.
Mm.
It was like transparent, kind of like that.
Not only that, there you go.
And I don't often
It's like
see
a
that.
thickness to the air.
Yeah.
Like air gets thick, and that's
Yeah.
so you might not be able to see them, but the air seems to change
It,
density or something. It still transport.
yeah, so it was like, well, what was interesting is that specific moment I was standing in the area and like I'll get like a flash at the side of my, like when I
Uh,
turn. But I'm very much so a sensor. Like I
mm,
can detect portals, I can hear them, um, and I was, I don't know, I'm able to close and open portals. Like that is something that I can do,
oh wow.
with
Be
with
careful.
intention. With
Yeah.
intention. Like it's only of like, wait, why that feels off. Is that supposed to be open? Is that supposed to be closed? Like
Mm.
that kind of thing. Not like, oh, I'm gonna go open a portal today. Like not like that. No, it's very kind of intuitive, systematic, and like
Mhm.
part of like, a regiment in a way.
Okay.
But what's interesting is like going back to like when I was a little kid though, um I I would always be at home and I would hear the door open and like I would say, "Mom, mom, daddy's home. Daddy's home." And then we'd look at each other and like it was probably the summing up of Guiding Light, which was an old soap opera.
Yes,
My
yes, I
mom
remember that.
and that's how good my memory is. Like my dad would come home between 3:30 and 4, and it was always playing until 4 p.m. And
Right.
so it was like an indicator. And then my mom and I would look at each other and she would be like, that wasn't your dad. And I was like, what do you mean that wasn't dad? And I was like, okay. So like it was so strange that like this thing would consistently happen during that time that, around the time dad would come home. And I knew at a certain point that like I had to be okay with it because there would be other moments where we would notice certain activity in our kitchen at a certain time. And I found out later on, of course, my mom's like, yeah, so, the guy before us, he died in the bathroom. I was like, that's just weird. Like, why? This sounds like a very like Elvis Presley type of thing. No kidding.
Yeah, right.
um, and so like, but he was a chef and he loved to cook. So you would often find at certain times he'd be up like crafting a meal, I'm guessing, from in another world, a parallel universe in my house.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so we would like talk to him and be like, like I you do your thing, but just like don't freak us out, please.
Yes.
And so like activity like died down, which was but
No
calm
pun intended.
down, but it's interesting because often when you do like different like projects in your house,
Hmm.
things tend to amp up. Well, we just redid the bathroom, which was another area where he was like, that was his place, right?
Yeah.
I intentionally put in selenite in the walls and certain things to just kind of calm things down with intention.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. I'm like, huh, if I'd only known about this years earlier.
The selenite all over the house. Poor guy's
So
outside.
funny.
He can't come in anymore.
Well, I kind of use that as a gritting thing, and
Yeah.
like
That's a good
whatever,
idea.
yeah, like whatever, piece of that selenite like keeps him happy and is looking and he's like, hey, shiny, let me just like, you know, either exit and go on to the next universe or like, hey, oh, I'm just gonna stare at that for the rest of the time. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, that's funny. That is funny. Yeah, I do the same thing with aliens. I tell them they can tell me stuff, but don't scare me. So
Ooh, I want to hear an alien story.
so I live here in Florida. I'm driving back from Gainesville down, and we're on. We came the back way, so we're on the Veterans
Okay.
Highway. It's about 11 o'clock at night. Just me, my other daughter, and no other cars on the road. All of a sudden, there's this green light comes from the passenger side front fender underneath my truck and pops out by my driver's window. I'm going 70 miles an hour. This green, like bar or whatever, it was like that lime green, like that's in your zodiac sign there, but it was alive.
Whoa.
It was three-dimensional. You could see it. It was like plasma, I don't know how to else explain it. So like I'm looking out the windshield and I said to my daughter, I'm like, do you see this? And she goes, yeah. So we're driving right alongside with us. All of a sudden it starts going in circles, like a sparkler, zoom, 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 and leaving a little light trail. So it was doing that. And I'm looking at it and I go, I don't have time to be abducted. Please stop. God. I'm like, I'm tired. I want to go home.
I don't have time for this.
That's what I said. I don't have time for this. Just stop. And gone, just like that. There was no planes in the sky. My daughter stuck her head out the window. She's looking up. There's nothing.
Wow.
And it wasn't like a pin light. It was like 3 inches in diameter. So I have no idea what that was.
Could you tell me what area it was on Veterans? What like exit do you think it was?
Well, so it's further up because I know it changes the name right by us here in Lutz. So I
Hmm.
think it becomes this Sunshine Highway or something like that. So probably up around exit 40. 39, up that high. It was really up a ways.
Okay. Interesting.
Because we used to get onto it at the where it ended, which was Ponce de Leon Road,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
and
Up
then
in
coming,
Brooksville.
yeah, so coming south, and there was it was in a spot where there's no houses on either side. There was no cars coming at us, and I'm like, oh my God, where is this coming from? Then,
There's definitely a portal in that area, like how to put this? Portal's not the right word, but it's definitely an active area that
okay,
like I feel like where you can definitely connect. I know when I was driving to the where we held the Sagittarius class in
right,
person, I had to go pretty pretty far, not that far up there, but pretty far on the Veterans Expressway, where that just whole road, I mean,
right,
where it was raining so hard. My vehicle needs new tires.
right.
Hasn't happened yet. And
Here,
we're talking like it was raining super hard, can't see anything.
excellent.
And I'm wearing my car's wearing tires that are like, and I'm like hydroplaning everything. And I felt like I was on ice skates,
Hmm.
energetically and divinely skating on that road. And I
Wow,
do feel like I had assistance on the other side.
you needed it with hires like that.
I mean, yeah, and then the next night actually, I did not plan to be out, but I actually needed to make a run and I didn't think it was going to rain like it did. And since the night before it was fine, I went out and I kid you not, um I almost like twice spun out.
Wow. Mm,
And so like I felt the difference. Like it's a feeling, you know?
yes.
And I was like, whatever I was on during that highway was on a different plane of existence.
Wow. Yeah, we had another experience just a few months ago,
Mhm.
and it was like I decided to draw this. I don't know if you can see it, a
Oh,
triangle, and there were
yeah.
circles within circles all three corners, and it was just above the tree line, over Dunkin' Donuts. So I think ET needed a sweet thing, but
Whoa.
it was just hanging there in the sky, and there was no lights. It was it looked like a gray blue metal, and those circles, they were indented, so you could see the difference. And it was big. It was big. I don't know, maybe 50, 60 feet, each
Yeah.
side. It was quiet. Couldn't hear anything. I mean, I even like buzzed down the windows. And again, with the same daughter. So I'm like, do you see that? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, we really need to start taking pictures.
That brings some Moldavite.
Yeah, right. I can only
See what
carry some
happens.
with me, but no, so we have a thing that they don't scare me, and they'll give me information. I've done readings for people where I'll tell them that their guides are aliens, and they go, yeah, I know. I'm like, okay, I'm glad you know. And I describe what they look like. It's like I get an imprint in my mind of what they look like.
Yeah.
So these particular ones for this lady, remember Star Trek? And the guys with the big heads that were bald,
Yeah.
you know, those guys with the long robes. That's what they look like.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That's the original Star Trek, you know,
Yeah.
with Captain Kirk, who is amazing, 350 years old, and he's going strong. You know, I'm insulted. He's like 2 months younger than my dad, and my dad passed, and Captain Kirk is going strong. you know.
That's
So,
awesome.
but I'm happy for Captain Kirk.
That's awesome. I can't remember his name for some reason.
William Shatner.
That's it. That's it.
I just always call him Captain Kirk. But
Did you
yeah,
know
so
Spock? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. No, I didn't
Did
personally know him.
Did you know Spock actually brought in his Jewish roots into the show
Did he?
by doing this?
Really?
That is
What?
the sign of the Kohanim, of the high priests. When they give the blessing,
Oh,
they do this. And my rabbi, who's passed on, Zikron Lavraka, he was
easy
a
for you to say.
Trekkie. He was a Trekkie, and he was, into Star Wars deeply. And most of his sermons literally were about Star Trek or Star Wars. And of
Oh my
course,
God.
he talks about this, and I was like,
There you go.
that's so cool.
Remember Mork and Mindy? He'd go, nano, nano.
Oh, he did mention that one too. That's the only reason I knew. Mark and Mindy.
Ah, there you go. Yeah. William, what was his name? Oh my God. His name escapes me. Oh, my daughter like quotes him all the time too.
Uh,
Robin Williams.
I was gonna say, is it Robin Williams? I
Yes, it
love
is.
Robin Williams. I never seen it, so
You got to look
I'll
it up
have
on
to.
YouTube.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up.
He was quite the character. That was filmed in New York at ABC, and I worked for ABC at the time.
Really?
And yeah, he was always doing something crazy. He'd come out onto the set completely nude, but even though there was a live audience, they couldn't see him because he'd come in and the couch would be in front of him, you
Oh
know.
my gosh.
And the poor actress that played Mindy, she would just like and just try to stay calm and just keep filming, you know. But he was
Wow.
quite the character. Robin Williams had many people inside of him.
Definitely.
Yes, but very,
Definitely.
very interesting.
I
So,
miss Robin Williams.
yeah, it's a shame. He's very talented and, that he
Yeah.
things that happened. But
Yeah.
everyone has to escape the planet somehow. So,
Well, it's interesting. I did a case study on him in psychology, abnormal psychology, and
mhm.
it was definitely connected to his status of Parkinson's. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's like,
it wasn't good, so
yeah.
I felt bad for him,
But I
but
will say, I feel like he lived out his soul mission to the absolute fullest, while he
made
was here.
so many people happy and laugh and just brought in some levity wherever he was very quick, and it was
My
nice.
favorite quote from Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello.
The drive-by fruiting.
Yes. I
Yeah.
got to see Mrs. Doubtfire in London on Broadway or whatever
Oh,
it's called there. Um whatever the road is there. And I will say, like I felt like the actor actually really brought honor to Robin Williams,
oh, nice.
it was hard to like say like, well, how could I watch this without Robin Williams in it? But somehow that man did it. That man definitely honored him, and it was incredible.
Well, maybe Robin popped in and was in him spiritually.
I feel that. I literally was like, how did he do
Yeah, right.
that? Oh man.
Oh, good Lordy
Well, I want
love.
to transition a little bit
Sure.
into your work as a the word escaped me.
Hypnotherapist.
Thank you. I don't know why that word for some reason escapes me almost every single time I try to say it. I don't
That's
know
all right.
why.
I don't know either. I have a few that escape me, and a few I can't say. So,
Is it spaghetti? No, get it?
skitties? No, no, not spaghetti. Cinnamon sometimes is a hard one to
Hmm.
get out, but I've been
Yeah.
doing better,
But
But
yeah, I would love to explore the realms of you as a hypnotherapist
hypnotherapy.
and what that means.
So, there's like different layers. So you got just your hypnotist, and they can take care of smoking, overeating, that type of thing. Then you have uh, hypnotherapy, where you can do some medical hypnotherapy if you work with, um, you know, professional doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and you get a script for that, and you can work with these people. But if someone has like a diagnosed mental health condition, you only want to do the hypnotherapy with someone that their medical professional says it's okay for them to go ahead and do hypnosis.
Mm.
So the other thing with hypnotherapy is like we break everything down to get to where your root cause came from. So someone who let's say has fear of public speaking, 9 times out of 10, if we regress them down to like, you get them to a point, is it now 1, 2, 3, let's go back to the initial time that this happened. And they're little kids, and someone is telling them little kids are to be seen and not heard. So they embody that. And as they grow up, they still have that, they're not to be heard, they're seen. So they have a hard time with doing public speaking.
Would
Yeah.
EMDR be considered a hypnotherapy?
Well, I don't know. They are kind of arguing over that. So
Okay.
because we do like hand movements where we go back and forth and have the person watch our hand, and then this way, and then you change it this way, and then you're doing a figure 8. So it's kind of along those lines, but which came first, the chicken or the egg? Because some hypnotherapists were using that before it all came out. So,
Yeah.
there's both sides are arguing they came up with it first.
Got you. It's
You know,
interesting. I was I'll share a little tiny personal experience with EMDR. And she had like a light bar that,
okay,
and so like for me, I was like, man, this kind of really reminds me of, it would be like hypnotherapy in a way. And what was really interesting is, because I was connected with working with, you know, Akashic records and things like that, and all of those different things, right?
right.
And past, that's connected to past lives, future lives, different things like that. And during my EMDR session one time, as I started to go deeper and deeper each time of my sessions, I actually ended up doing a past life regression,
Ooh.
which was super interesting because my therapist had never held space for that before.
Wow. So she was surprised when it happened.
Yeah, and I was like, it was kind of interesting because at a certain level, I was holding space partially for myself in a way,
Right,
because I had already been trained in some of this type of stuff,
right.
but didn't realize when doing it that I was actually trained in part of this. And I was like, so for me to be able to navigate when things started to regress, that it was getting to the root and it wasn't in this lifetime, which was really unique. And then I started to really started drawing connection. I said, wow, I wonder, when people, when like doctors are doing, hypnotherapy, does this happen often?
It can, it depends on how responsive the person is, and that they can slip into that. Um, I haven't had anyone trip into a past life unless we were specifically doing that.
Gotcha.
But you know, the other thing is like some people don't feel comfortable with the idea of thinking that there's more than one life. So when that does happen, or they want to do a past life regression, I I can say, I'll say to them that, well, whether it's a true past life or it's your subconscious giving you a metaphor to point you in the right direction to try to heal whatever it is. And then they're like, oh, okay, So it kind of explains it for people who go, I don't know about this whole past life thing, but I don't know. 7-year-old me said, hey, you got to come around many times. You're not going to get it right, so it's going to take a while. So I'm like, 7-year-old kid. And I used to tell everyone, I'm like, like the stars at night, they poked holes through the top of the box so we can breathe.
That's funny. That's really funny.
So anyway, yeah, so that's it. It's really been very interesting journey doing the hypnotherapy for people and I guess why it's therapy is because we regress them to the point of finding out where the root cause is, and then we do like a gestalt conversation between them and whoever the antagonist is. So
Can
even
you remind me
though
what Gestalt is? I know it was
it's
my.
a back and forth, so it's
Okay.
like
I was a psych major too. I'm like,
so
can't remember.
it's like bang the side of your head, right? But it's what happens is, let's say, someone told them to, kids are to be seen and not heard. And so you go, okay, little Jimmy, because you have the little Jimmy and then adult Jimmy as well. So
Right.
little Jimmy is there at that point and go, who do you want to talk to about this? Aunt Tootsie. I'm like, okay, Aunt Tootsie, what do you say back to little Jimmy about how he felt about being told that he was to be seen and not heard? And of course, Aunt Tootsie's not really talking. Little Jimmy's talking for Aunt Tootsie. But it's like it holds that space so you can actually have that back and forth conversation that you really can't even do in your own head. Because let's say you're thinking back about to that time and you go, yeah, I should have told her this and I should have told her that. But then other things are popping in while you're doing this. So by being regressed into hypnosis, you're able to keep that space for them. So little Jimmy can focus on how he felt. He felt alienated and lonely and whatever. And then, well, Aunt Tootsie, what do you say? Well, your mother was on the phone and, because your grandfather just passed away and we were trying to keep you quiet. Okay, so now what do you say back? And so then it holds that space so they're able to have that conversation that they couldn't do in a conscious level,
Yeah.
and then they can get to the point of where you say, um, Big Jimmy, can you think of a time that you possibly treated other people the same way, shut them down before they were ready? And they normally say yes. And then you're like, well, can you find the space to forgive yourself because you're only human, and it's like, oh yes. And then, can you now see Aunt Tootsie really wasn't mean on purpose? She was just working with the her own knowledge, her own experiences on how to handle something, and isn't inherently mean. Can you forgive her? And normally people say yes. Sometimes they say no. And then you're like, oh my God, now what do I do? But but then you have to go back to the conversations because they haven't resolved it yet. It's like, so what else do you have to say to Aunt Tootsie? Sometimes people curse, sometimes people yell, they can get a little physical, which is a little concerning. But most of our hypnotherapy is now done via Zoom.
I was
So
gonna say that's a great thing for Zoom.
thank God for COVID, because that's what started in having to be on Zoom. And anyway,
I'm
but
curious. Have
yeah,
you ever linked your hypnotherapy in with your mediumship? Maybe like
yes, yes.
you have to where
Mhm.
like Aunt Tootsie really does come in.
I've had that happen. Yeah. Um, so the other thing I do is I also do emotion code. And emotion code, have you ever heard of it?
I mean, most of the time I don't know what things are, and I've heard a variation of that. But I would
Okay.
love to know like
Okay.
what that term actually means.
So emotion code was invented, created, perfected by Dr. Bradley Nelson.
Okay.
And, he liken the mind to like a computer, so like there's trapped emotions that get stuck in us. And so he came up with a way to create 60 emotions, put them in 2 columns, 6 rows. So there's 5 emotions in each box. Now, as crazy as this sounds, your subconscious already knows what's on that page. So we energy test and we'll say, does a little Jimmy have a trapped emotion in regards to Aunt Tootsie? Yes, because you energy test this way, or you can energy test using their arm. But everyone gets more tired that way. So it's just easier to test for Jimmy this way. And so if it's a yes, it's strong. If it's a no, it breaks apart. And so it's in column A, yeah, it's an odd row. Yes, it's a row 1. And so you start reading the emotions that are in the box for column A and row 1, of abandonment. Yes, so then you take a magnet and you pass it over their main meridian down off their back, all the way down. Now, if I'm doing it online, like I've done with hypnosis, so we have an intake form. When we say, when I think about public speaking and I feel so, and write down how you feel, and then sometimes like the same word keeps coming up, for whatever the case is. And that's when I'll bring emotion code. So I had one gentleman, we were trying to do something with a family member of his, and we were just getting the same words over and over. And I said, do you mind if we try this emotion code? So we did. And we came up with the word, what was it? Hang on. It just flew out of my head. You humiliated. And he's like, oh my God, yes, that's what happened. I was humiliated. And all the lines, all the crinkles in his face, like disappeared. And he just sat back and he goes, that's it. And we were able to use that to regress them down to the point in time of what happened that this family member did to him that made him feel so humiliated. And we were able to heal it. So it was a really cool tool to use, so
Yeah.
it's one, so I've been doing it. I don't put it anywhere or tell anyone that I'm a specialist in it, because I haven't gone through their official training, because
Yeah.
years ago he had the whole course online and you could watch it and do it. It's that simple,
Yeah.
but in order to be quote certified, I have to do the course through their website, which, it's on my list of many things to do, but it's absolutely amazing. And you can do it for people remotely. You don't
Wow.
even need them sitting with you, you
Yeah.
know? And so I came across it because a situation had happened with my youngest daughter, and hypnotherapy wasn't, not hypnotherapy, what do you call it? Regular psychotherapy wasn't helping. So out of desperation, I heard about this woman. I was like, yes, let's do this. And it worked, once a week for 2.5 months. And she was, able to finally tell me what had happened to her at school. And it totally put her on the right track of healing. So, because it allows the person to release the trauma without having to talk about it. Like, we don't need to talk about what it is. We just have a question. You have a trapped emotion. Yes or no? And sometimes you need to know, um, like you'll ask before you release it, is there anything else I need to know before I release this? Yes. And then you try to find out what age it came in at. And whenever we did that with her, there was always a story. It's like, oh, I remember when she was 5, blah, 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 blah happened. And then we were able to release it. So it's like you had to bring up the situation, but you don't have to. Like, someone can just note in their heads, like, yeah, okay, age 5, yes, something happened. So they acknowledge it. They know, their subconscious and conscious knows, and then we're able to release it. So it's a really cool tool. I really like it.
That's really cool.
So,
Wow.
because, yeah, because with the hypnotherapy that we do, like I said, we just don't put you into a trance and then I spit my words of encouragement at you. I'm going to get yours. Like, what are your words? And so it's like when I think about public speaking and I feel so scared, and then I ask you like 4 more times to find out, like, get more words. And then we go into your beliefs. Well, when I think about public speaking and I feel so scared, I am, and people go, so that's where you get the belief. I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm whatever. And we take all that information and then we turn around and say, when I think about public speaking and I feel dumb and stupid and not good enough, how do you want to feel? I want to feel empowered. I want to feel strong. I want to feel smart. Whatever the words are. So now I'm getting your words that I can feed back to you during the session. So I think that's why it's a little bit more in depth or substance. I can't even say the word. You know what I'm saying? Say the word for me. Substance.
Substance?
Thank you. It's I told you there's some words I just can't say. They get stuck in there. But it helps people heal,
Yeah.
And like I said, the emotion code helps when people just can't get past feeling stupid or dumb. Because you're like on the spot, you're just looking for answers. And I'm like, okay, let's try something else. Let's do this instead.
So, transitioning slightly with the hypnotherapy, how does that relate to how you're going to be guiding us for the astral travels?
Okay. Well, that's so that's kind of like a subtract of that, because you can be guided into a place of relaxation and hypnosis, and it's almost like a guided meditation, so
Mm,
that then take you on a journey wherever you want to go. So you get people to the point where they're relaxing, let's say we put them on a beach, they're on the beach and the sun is shining on them, and the sun is on their toes and their toes are nice and warm, and now it's on their ankles and their calves, and you get them to the point that they're like, oh, I am just baking in the sun, this is wonderful. And you know or wherever you want to put them, they could be next to a trickling stream, and they're free to travel wherever they want to go. You can also use it as a form of remote viewing, like
yeah.
to go and travel and check on someone. I did that during my class, and I went to my sister's house to mess with her. But it was really interesting because I was able to tell her where she was in her house at that time of night. So she happened to have been laying down and sleeping already. And I laid down next to her to hug her. And the next morning when I talked to her, I was like, so it was about 9 o'clock at night, and you were already in bed, and the dog was on the other side of you, and I laid down next to you just to give you a hug. She says, that's so funny. She said, I fell asleep around that time, and she said, I had a dream about you. So, and the other thing is I was able to tell her where her friend was in the house. Her friend was watching TV in the family room while she was upstairs. So it was like, I kind of tiptoed around.
So with the class, essentially, for the astral travels class, we're going to be taking a journey in the ethers. Is that correct?
Yeah. They can go off into
Cool.
the ether. I just happen to go and haunt my sister.
Oh, that's funny. I feel like my dragon's coming in. I said that from the very beginning. I don't know why. Maybe it's the year of the dragon. I don't know. I mean, I know it's the year of the dragon, but maybe it's because of the year of the dragon that's coming through. Not sure
Maybe.
why.
Maybe.
But I just want to remind people that our class is this coming Thursday, which is
The 14th.
is it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Sorry. I'm like, I got the wrong one. I was like on here. I was like, yep, Thursday, March 14th from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time through 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it is $25. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. And essentially, I just want to do a little tiny recap on the Zodiac Energy Empowerment Series and how this all connects. So let's take ourselves on a little bit of a journey. So the Zodiac Energy Empowerment Series is that is it's a journey for us to connect with the zodiac energies in a new way, in an embodied way, in a way through experience. And so we started this entire series off with Scorpio, and we're moving through a different model than the seasons. We're moving with a model that's connected with the numerology, like a step-by-step kind of model. And it's all about setting the sacred space for the transformation, which is Scorpio. And we add in different energies into the sacred space. In the sacred space, we add in the Leo energy, which is the spark of creativity. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the spark of creativity that comes from our heart space. And I use this analogy of like, when we want to, it's good to set an intention with this. Setting an intention is, we can actually observe it and see how it grows.
Mhm.
And so, like, let's just say, like, everybody, wants more money in their life, right? like,
Especially
like,
now.
yeah, I want to use this analogy because I want to draw like a nice little parallel here. Is like, okay, we call more money in, awesome, but when we're jumping into putting the first, like ingredient into the sacred space, we're not necessarily tapping into it lights us up because we have more money. It's more about connecting with our creative spark that really does light us up, that is connecting us to our muse, that's connecting us to our divine creator, because that is what's going to allow us to expand.
Mhm.
And we then put that second ingredient in, which is the Cancer energy, which is connected with the rhythm of life, the cycle, the flow, our feelings. And that takes us into the soul level of things. So now we're connecting that heart and that soul together to flow. And then we add in the third ingredient, which is Sagittarius, which is all about connecting with the story, our belief system, and adjusting that story to allow ourselves to expand. Because sometimes we need to rewrite the story.
Mhm.
Well, often it's like, well, do you believe you can have, endless amounts of money? If you don't, if you don't, like, that's gonna stop the process. So we have to start digging a little bit deeper and adjust things. And then the fourth ingredient, once we've gotten past the belief system, is allowing ourselves to feel where we belong and where we don't belong. And allowing ourselves to step outside our comfort zone, because we could be stuck in a pattern, essentially, that we do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different outcome. Well, that's insanity.
Totally.
Literally.
And that's
And
what Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
exactly. And so we need to like step outside our comfort zone, do something different, and change that pattern. And that will actually elevate our frequency. And then we add in that fifth ingredient inside the sacred space, and that's the Gemini energy. Because now that we've walked through all these different energies, we're clearly communicating to the universe our thoughts and our ideas. If we would have started with the Gemini energy, it might have been a little bit mucky. And then we harmonize all of those ingredients by putting in that sixth ingredient, which is the Libra energy. And that's really connecting with balance and harmony. And this is a huge one, allowing ourselves to receive.
Holy moly.
Because often we forget that. We're like, And when we give ourselves permission, we then start magnetizing whatever that is towards us because we've accepted, at an ethereal level, oh, wow, yeah, I do allow myself to receive. That is important. And that changes us alchemically. And then we put in that seventh ingredient, which is this Pisces energy. And that's a invitation to go a little bit more towards the unknown and illuminate the soul even more and allow ourselves to clear out a path at a soul level and get rid of or clear out all of that energetic muck so that for Capricorn, the next step, we can decide, commit, and build a foundation. And then after that, we take inspired action with Aries. And then after that, we actually birth our manifestation through Taurus. And then after that, lastly, but not leastly, Virgo, we learn to embody the energy that all of the different steps we went through so that we can repeat it over and over and over again, but not just the same, but elevating it each time. And so this is an invitation for us to connect with different energies within the series. And our astral projection class is a way that we can explore the Piscean energies and clear out all the energetic muck and allow ourselves to move forward at a soul level. So I'm excited. And one thing I want to bring up is I did create a journal for this, well, Pisces hidden. There we go. Oh well. Okay. You saw it briefly. You can go on my website, and you can click the link that's associated with it. And this is a really good tool, a journal, for us to track our progress within the series. Because oftentimes we move through it and we don't track it, and then we lose our footing. We get lost in our daily lives. I mean, how many people thus far have made a intention for the beginning of the year, whatever that beginning is for you, and then like, oh, wait, what was that? Because we didn't write it down. And so this is an invitation for us to track our progress. And I've created different questions catered to every single class, both in-person classes and online classes, for us to explore and go deeper. And
Nice.
So I'm excited, and I just want to say thank you for coming on tonight and exploring the Pisces energy with me before we even embark on the astral projection.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you. As we swim along.
Yes. And I want to say thank you to our listeners. Again, you can find everything on my website at energyspeaksbykatriel.com. And if you like this podcast, please share it with someone. Please invite them to something. I really would like to build a community with seeing us all track our progress through the lens of the Zodiac energy and watch us catapult together, quantum leap, if you will. And yes, so thank you all, divine, beautiful souls, for being here and playing this astro game.
Sounds like fun.
And that is all for tonight's episode. Thank you all, divine, beautiful souls.
Bye.
Bye.